Hello, beautiful people. I hope you all are having an amazing beginning of your week this week. I know that we have ended our 5-day challenge, but that does not mean that we're stopping there, right? The whole reason too that we really went into that is to learn how to make long-term changes to our eating habits and also to really create a healthy relationship with food, because it's about so much more than about the food we put in our mouth. It's how it ends up there in the first place, and about really changing our lives and seeing dramatic changes in our health. And so I've had a few people ask me about my own healing timeline and how, what are the exact steps that I really took to finding relief and reversing some of the issues that I had dealt with for, it was about 20 years, some of them, that I had been dealing with. And that was a very, very long time. So I wanted to share that all with you because this is a question that I get quite frequently. And I really want my journey to be of inspiration and also help you. That way you do not have to spend the same amount of time that I did, when it can be so much easier, because I know from experience that there's so many different roadblocks and things that I came up against that really took me so much longer than it really needed to. And I didn't have someone by my side to say, here's what to do, here's some things that you can try. And it was really just kind of a guessing game. And so for those that are new to the group, I'm going to briefly also to kind of go over everything that I was dealing with. I know we have a lot of new members, and I welcome you into our beautiful group here, and just so happy to have you. And so just to give you an idea of kind of what I went through when I first began my journey is from the time I was little, I dealt with a lot of yeast infections, urinary tract infections, and things like that. Turned out to be, ended up being something called interstitial cystitis, which is a mouthful. It's also known as painful bladder syndrome. Just kind of having like a bladder infection 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But kind of for what I had, it was kind of like that times 10. So it was like a bladder infection on steroids. And then I also, since that started when I was really, really young, then I also became depressed at a very young age. And I also started eating a lot because I was depressed. So, and then I also had a sugar tooth on top of that. And then I also became very, very overweight. And then I also had acne. And so like this whole thing together, you know what I'm gonna do real quick? I'm gonna close my window because I can hear, and I'm sure this is kind of loud for you. I'm gonna step back real quick and I'm gonna close my window so you don't have to deal with that loud noise outside. The beauty of doing live videos is all the noise that sometimes happen outside. Anyways, so compilation of everything that I really went to was I was just a really hot mess. By the time I was 15, I was extremely red. I was bloated. I had major constipation. I didn't really know it at the time. I thought it was normal to maybe only, use the restroom every couple days, maybe once a day if I was lucky. I just terrible, terrible acne where I was made fun of. And then I also was dealing with this painful, issue where I couldn't understand what was going on with my bladder. I'd been to every specialist and things like that. And also had anxiety and depressed and just also very low in energy. And that kind of got worse. Really the energy levels and everything kind of started compounding. By the time I was 24 is really where the dark night of the soul happened, so to speak, for me, as when I was about 24 years old. So it was a span over about 20 years that everything got worse. And I know there's the saying, and it's that if you do not listen to your body when it whispers, you will hear it when it screams. And even though I knew stuff was kind of going on, it just got worse and worse and worse. And I had gone to all these specialists, nothing was really working. And they kept looking for something like, let's fix you, what's wrong with you, and all these things. But I had gone to so many different specialists, nobody was ever putting together, hey, let's look at all the stuff you have going on as a whole. And really realizing that it was all connected. Nobody really ever did that. Once in a while I had somebody go, oh, maybe you should change your eating habits and things like that, but it was all just a very generic form. And I was like, does this help people? Sometimes. That's not good enough, right? That's not good enough for anyone. Sometimes this may help. No, we all deserve something much more than that. We all deserve 100% reversal and 150% feeling amazing in our bodies. So as I got older, I kept getting more and more frustrated, and I really wanted to do something with my life. And I know we have a lot of you that are in this beautiful group right now that are entrepreneurs, or you're busy in your business, or you're really career driven, which I really was too, and I really wanted to do something with my life. But when you feel held back by your body, it's a terrible feeling when you know you're successful in all these different areas, but yet the body is the one thing that I couldn't figure out. It drove me insane in a way, because of my weight, I wouldn't go hang out with anyone. I didn't want to put on a swimsuit because of my interstitial cystitis. I was afraid of going on road trips because of my acne. I always had to wear a lot of makeup. So, when you have those sort of things that we've talked about in this group before, it can make you not fully show up in life. That's no way to really live. And that's how I really began feeling. I was kind of pushing because I was like, I'm still going to do something with my life. Even though all this is happening, I'm still going to do something. And finally, I just broke down because my body couldn't handle it anymore. And I was so frustrated and so just over this whole thing. And I finally met a naturopath who steered me in the right direction. He didn't have all the answers, but he gave me a couple suggestions, and off I went from there. So that's really where I want to share the 6 steps that I took to heal my body from acne, depression, anxiety, having super just bloated. I was just bloated all over. You know that feeling when it's just like, you're just kind of bloated and puffy and inflamed? Also, my autoimmune digestion was terrible, constipation, bloated, super gassy. So I was just a hot mess. And also I had a terrible relationship with food because I didn't understand what was going on, because I was like, this is going to hurt me. Is this going to help me? And then when I was like, okay, I'm not going to diet, I'm going to try to eat healthy, I still wasn't getting the results, right? So then I had this terrible relationship with food because I felt like I could never get it right. And I was scared of it, but I also loved it because I also had food addictions now. So it's kind of one of those like catch-22s, which I've seen a lot of people have, right? And so it just kind of makes you just like, why can't I get this right? I'm so great and everything else. That's kind of how I was feeling. So I'm going to share those 6 simple steps with you. So one of the first thing that I did to really kind of set my foundation up for success was I decided to go vegan when I was 24 years old. And it was the best decision still I've ever made in my life. And at first when I went vegan, I was like, okay, lots of fruits and vegetables and things like that. But then I kind of started getting into a lot of the meat substitutions, a lot of grains and beans. And then I kind of backtracked myself just a little bit. And that's where really I decided to go more plant-based, because even though things are vegan, that doesn't necessarily make them healthy, right? Because like Nutter Butters and Oreos are vegan. And so I was still eating a lot of stuff that wasn't really that great for me. And so I was still having a little trouble, but that was like really kind of my foundation of going, oh, I think there's something to this, because I started seeing my inflammation going down. My acne started dissipating. And so it was kind of, everything generally started kind of going down, and I was like, I think there's really something to this. And so once I really got my foundation of like, okay, I'm going plant-based, it was still really rocky. I was like looking up blogs hours out of a day. There was no programs. There was no anything like that out there at the time. It was 10 years ago. And so I just spent many, many, many hours researching and doing all these things to try to figure out how to do it right for me. But then there was no autoimmune protocol. There was no like hints about digestion and things like that. So then from there is when, hello, beautiful Lauren. I just love seeing your face pop up. So then from there I realized, okay, I think something's going on with my digestion. This plant-based it's not just quite enough for me. I need something a little bit more. And I've seen a lot of people go into this where they're like, okay, I'm doing plant-based, but I'm still not quite getting the results. Is something wrong with me? No, that's really where the process of going just a little bit deeper in order to actually kind of get the results that you really want. Sometimes you just need to, it's like this actually, it is like a pyramid or a stairwell that you climb. You consistently go, okay, like now that I kind of have this foundation, and now I'm going to go to the next step and go to the next step. And finally, then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like here's where I'm at. So it was really like a stairwell that I climbed for the past 10 years. And I still consider this something that I'm still doing, because there's always something more to work on. And in that way, it's not always, it doesn't feel like work though anymore, I guess I should say. So maybe work isn't the right word. I don't know what really is right in this moment, but I don't think that's really the right word for it. So from there is when I really got interested in digestion. I had met a woman through school when I went to become a health coach, and I met her, and she was really into digestion. And I was like, wow, I think, aw, beautiful mamacita. My mama's watching. Hi, Mom. And so from there is when I was like, oh, I think there might be something to this digestion. And that's when people started kind of going, oh, what is this gut health thing? What's going on here? And so that's when I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to start looking at that. So I started looking at probiotics, and I started looking at food combining and things like that. And so that was like that next step up for me. And I really found a lot of relief through that, a lot of relief, because then I was like, wow, like, I'm not the stinky kid on the school bus anymore, because I had such bad gas that I almost did not meet with my husband for our first date because I had so much gas. I wasn't really feeling that great about my body. And I remember going, oh, what am I gonna do? And even my friend, before dropping me off for our date, she goes, what are you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know, maybe just go to the bathroom a lot. And now I think about that, how shitty to know that I might have missed my first date with my husband because of everything that was going on with my body. And I know there's many more things that I did miss out on because of what was happening in my body. And just thinking about that, that's a whole other conversation. But it's pretty incredible. And I'm just how things, happen with what goes on in your body and the stories you tell yourself. And sometimes we do need those aspects of healing, of staying at home and things like that. But yeah, it was one of those things that I'm so glad that I was like, yeah, I got to get into digestion. This can't keep going on. I can't feel like I'm taking away from my own life here. And so I really got fused into digestion. And then after that, I was like, I'm feeling really good. And I knew I could feel even better. So that's when I really started getting interested in the art and science of detoxification. And so that opened up my world. And I was just like, what is this? And so I started experimenting with many different things with detoxification, and hello, Trudy. And so I really got into that, and I started studying, and that's where I found Dr. Morse, and I found some other really amazing healers that have been around. And I was like, what is this, right? These people that have helped millions of people heal, and we're not talking about this. And that's where I kind of became obsessed with detoxification, and I started really working on myself. And that's where I really got in deeper, because I was still kind of having some flares with my interstitial cystitis. Still, my digestion I'm still working on that. It took a while because I didn't have like a laid out plan for me. I didn't have anybody doing these things. That wasn't really there at that time, and it especially wasn't a plant-based. There was no plant-based version of these things. And so that's when I was like, started to kind of lay it all out. And I was like, okay, this is really working for me. And that's where I really kind of also sometimes too saw, and I know Lauren, you'll relate to this. Sometimes there was like a flare, and then I get better. And then it was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And sometimes that happens in a process. But I went through it, and it was one of the best things I did for myself is not to give up. And if for anyone that's watching, to remember to never give up on yourself, because if you do, you're going to stay stuck. But if you continually keep going, that is where you'll find more and more. And we have to, and we're going to get to the emotional piece too, but it's really remembering that to be in the joy of it and not to be in the, oh God, this sucks. And that's really what helped pull me through. And that is another step that I took. So it was plant-based, digestion, detox, and then it was the emotional for me. Because even too, when I got into detox, I was very mindful that because of going through this healing process, that I also, from my past food addictions and from even thinking, oh gosh, scared of food because of how it would act, that I kind of had this thing in the back of my mind with food, and it would be binge eating and purging, and also just being scared, which when you're also scared, right, too, what body part does that really take an effect on? Your adrenal glands, right? And so then I was like, well, I know that's gonna hinder my progress if I get stressed out about it. So that's really when I started getting into the emotional process of how we need to uncover also the emotional causation of our physical ailments. It's probably one of my favorite topics that I could ever talk about, because I think that, like I spoke earlier, everything that goes into our mouth, we think about it first and we process that first. And then also too, uncovering why we're eating certain foods in the first place, why we're even dealing with food addictions, and actually how to do it in a healthy way so that we're not scared, right? And I think that's something I've seen in a lot of clients. We become scared if we're feeling like there's a rock in our gut, or if we're like, we have a flare or there's pain and things like that. We're like, oh, I don't know. And so really important to also have that emotional support for yourself, and to also uncover anything that might be going on. For me, I realized that a lot of, hello, beautiful Jessica. For me, that a lot of it was I had to really realize, well, maybe that there was actually emotional causation to some of the pain that I was experiencing. And I realized for myself that was fear, trust, creativity, and also some creativity was a huge one, and also some sexual repression and some past abuse and things like that. So I really had to move through that as I went. And I think that is a very big piece to this process for anybody that's dealing with things with food in your body, is to also really be gentle with yourself and to move through that and get support in that way, whether it be a therapist, a coach, doing your own research, meditation, and things like that. So a really big piece was the emotional step for me, was to create a healthy relationship with food while diving into the detoxification, the digestion, the plant-based foods. Because I know even now, I check in with myself if I'm going to do a deeper detox, like a grape juice cleanse. I need to know where my headspace is so that I can move forward, because I know otherwise, right, a tendency that I used to have would be then to binge eat, because then I didn't give myself what I needed. So I always check in, and really a very important part of the process, to check in with yourself where you're at, find a foundation, and then go deeper. And that can be a little bit of a playful thing. And that's why, that is one reason why everybody is so different. And I really just want to honor that and really share that with you, is to honor where you're at and to find foundation, and also play back and forth between your different pyramid and the steps that you take in that. So then, of course, after detoxification, I got really interested in alkalization. So that was the next step that I really took, is learning how to combine all of this and going, okay, I'm kind of getting into detoxification, and, you know, also tying that in with digestion and plant-based foods, and then learning also how to really alkalize my body. And that's really where I saw some inflammation, some kind of lingering things really start to go down, and especially with energy. My energy really kind of skyrocket with that, because my digestion was already like, okay, awesome, like this, it's going great. My energy levels had just started to whoop. And so alkalization kind of put it was like that extra little kicker on it too. And that too, especially for long-term health, is that alkalization, that part. And so that was another big piece to my journey, is learning how to balance everything out, also with the emotional things and the ties that I had with food, to go, oh, it's okay, I'm having a gluten-free brownie today, I'm having a treat, and things like that. And to be able to look at my day, kind of go, cool, like I know how I'm gonna work with my digestion, I know what detoxification tools I'm gonna bring in, I also know that my day is mainly alkaline. And so being able to pull all that together over time has been such a gift. So alkalization is really something simple to be able to work on too. It's just one of those things that you sometimes, for those, I know a lot of you are dealing with some digestive distress and that's going on. Hello, beautiful Stephanie, is to be able to learn how to tie in alkalization when you're also working on digestion. I know that can be a little bit of a tricky one for some people, because it's like, well, how do I eat raw foods if I'm not digesting them? So that was kind of a tricky thing for me for a little bit, and that's something I really had to learn how to work with. And that's really why I actually really love the science part of my job in this way too, the emotional and the science piece of like, okay, you just kind of have to play with it, and you have to learn how to create your day from there. That way you're like, okay, cool, like I have a stable foundation, then I can do more. And that's why I love creating programs so much, and they're so fun to do it that way. And then the sixth step, if I cannot go over that word, the sixth step I really took was then working, and this is what I'm really focusing, part of the piece that I'm really focusing on now is adrenal and hormonal health. And that's really been also a gift, and something I'm really getting more and more into is women's health and how adrenal health ties in. And especially as we get older, for us women, is learning like, okay, like menopause is not that far off in the future. Yes, I am young, and I want to make sure that it's a period that I can look forward to and not go, oh gosh, because I remember the story of hearing from my grandmas and from other women, right, the elders in community, of going, oh, menopause is terrible and all these things, and I don't want to do that. So I've really gotten interested in hormonal health, and also how cramps and fatigue, and also with like how, going back to the emotional causation of how that also changes with cravings, and how when we honor certain cravings, it actually can help with our cycle, and how our cycle is tied into the whole flow of things, and how our adrenals actually, if our adrenals are not happy, that actually affects our reproductive system. That is just like, that kind of has blown my mind in the past few years. And so I've really gotten into that, and it's made a huge difference. And I don't have cramps, which is, I'm just so happy about. And also too, like, I know if I do have certain cravings that come up, to know how to prepare beforehand. Like, I'm prepared beforehand. I still have energy during my cycle. Also knowing how to use my schedule, how to shift my schedule so I know when I'm at the height of my energy levels, and then also how to create more energy throughout the entire month. That has been such a gift, and it has also really helped me to deal with releasing some food addictions. Like we were talking about, the emotional causation tying in that hormonal piece has actually helped me learn about my body and going, oh, my body was actually trying to say something. And I think that's the biggest piece of all of the things, is learning how to understand your body and what it's actually saying is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Because some of the things I was like, well, my body needs XYZ, whatever I thought, or my body doesn't like this. I had to learn, does my body not like this? Like, I thought my body didn't like fruit. I thought my body didn't like some other things. And so really realizing though, what happens when you eat a certain food in your body, is it healing? Is it, or is it repairing? And that's what I'm feeling. And so that's been like also a huge underlying piece of really understanding the body. They're really cool. So just to go over those steps that I took, because I know some of you had asked. So this is kind of the timeline, was really plant-based. Huge difference. And that's one reason I'm so passionate about it, because I think we can all agree that eating more plants is always a good thing. And even if you're like, I don't want to go vegan, that's kind of scary, but I at least want to do more. It's always right. We can always have progress, not perfection within that. And so for me, that's been a huge game changer. So plant-based diet has been huge. Also then after that, I went into digestion, really learned a lot about that, and then was able to kind of tie in my own thing about plant-based digestion, which is kind of a whole nother level. And then after that was detoxification. And wow, like just obsessed, which I know some of you know about me. I'm pretty much obsessed with that, and how we can do it daily. And then also how we can use it to repair some really long held ailments or issues or problems that we're really kind of experiencing in our body. After that, alkalization, and also the emotional stuff too. Like really learning how to process the emotional causation of physical issues, and also to create a healthy relationship with food. And that was through coaching, therapy, my own meditation, also through coaching others has really helped me in my own to realize we're not alone. So community is a huge piece of that. To be able to talk about it and go, oh, I'm not the only one experiencing that. So community is a really huge piece into that emotional step. So really digging into that huge piece. And then of course the adrenals and hormonal health. So those have really been the 6 main staples that I've been working on, and that have freed me from things that I thought were totally incurable, and that I've been told were incurable, and things that nobody else knows. Specialist dermatologist, I mean, I got to every single specialist, and nobody had able to kind of really look at it and put it all together. And that's really why I'm so passionate about creating programs and really sharing them out in the world, because I think it takes a lifestyle, not a diet. It takes a change in how we view food. It takes support. It takes all of those things to put together and go, oh, okay, cool. And to also be gentle with yourself. And I think that's a big part of the process, and to be able to have it laid out. And what I wouldn't have given for a blueprint for that back in the day, and that's why what I do now is because I really wanted somebody to give me a blueprint and say, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna just, one step at a time. Here's the step 1, get solid with that, go to the next, go to the next, go to the next. And And you know, that's why I'm here sharing it with you. And I hope that this supports you, for those of you that are watching, to be able to go, okay, like where are the steps that I'm maybe kind of going, where do I need support with? So if you're kind of like, what's going on? Come join us in the Plant Powered Plate. It just launched. I know all of you have probably seen all the stuff about it. And that's really where I created this program from, is really for a lifestyle. It's not meant to be a temporary fix. It's meant to help you move through all of that in a way that's supportive, and also comes with, you know, with beyond the 7 weeks. That way you're still in the community, still growing in the group, and can kind of turn to it and go, okay, am I ready for that next level? How can I tie this all in together without feeling completely overwhelmed by it? Because it can be confusing, looking up things online all day. I know I was there, I was like, well, I'm just looking up things online all day, and I'm just kind of feeling really confused, and there's like 1,000 things to do. What should I do first? Does my body not like this? Does it? I'm like, it's just like, even thinking about that is like so confusing to me in so many ways. And so if you're feeling confused and you really want support in that, come join us in P3. It's a lifetime membership, and it's going all the time. The group is always open, because I really wanted something people could join at like really any time, and join into a group that's fun. And this week we have two. Super stoked on this. We're having on Thursday. We're doing a whole travel prep, products, foods, recipes, and everything to be able to help you when times are like, well, I'm traveling, I'm doing all these things. Like, what am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to bring with me to actually work on all these different steps for myself so that I actually feel good? Because I know that travel, stress, and things like that often come up. And so it's like, how do I still work on my journey, why I'm doing these things? That's often where we can kind of flub and then kind of backtrack. And so we're doing a really cool thing on Thursday in the group, all about travel. And so I'm really excited for that. So if you're curious or you have questions, you know, send me a message. I'm always open to answer those, and love to see you all in the P3 group. Just a pretty badass group, if I do say so myself, and just full of membership site. It's gorgeous. Big thanks to my assistant Heather for always putting together something beautiful to put out. And so I hope that my journey can really support you, and you finding relief and being able to live life fully and not feel held back by your body, because it should never feel that way. Nobody ever wants to wake up and go, oh, well, in the future, I'm planning for the future. No, plan for now. Like, I am going to feel great now. I'm not going to wait for 5 years. I waited for 20. And, you know, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities in life, and almost didn't marry my husband because of it. And I don't want to see anybody go through that. Life is not meant to be on the sidelines, right? It's meant to be lived now. And there's no waiting when it comes to your health. You know, it's not worth it. So, you know, whatever you need to do to take that first step, do it. And, you know, if you're like, well, I don't quite know, just send me a message. Let's talk about it and see what's going on. Because I don't want to see anybody suffer. So much love to you all, and I hope you all are having a beautiful day. It's gorgeous out here. So I'm gonna go grab some lunch with some friends and get some work done today. And yeah, so much love to you all. Mwah. Bye.